In early 2025, something happened that no one saw coming. Not in Washington. Not in Paris. But right in the heart of West Africa. Burkina Faso made history. With just one signature, Captain Ibrahim Traoré ended centuries of exploitation. He didn't send soldiers. He didn't fire a single shot. He used the power of a pen. From that moment forward, land in Burkina Faso would never again be bought or sold. Not by foreign corporations, not by powerful elites, not even by the wealthiest billionaire on earth. Ownership was gone. Instead, the government declared that all land belongs to the state forever. No exceptions. The only way to use it is through leases, 18 years for short-term use, or 99 years for strategic projects. But the land itself? Untouchable. And here's the real revolution: access is only for Burkinabe citizens. Not because of wealth. Not because of influence. But because it is their home. For the first time in modern Africa, land is no longer a commodity to be flipped for profit, it's a right, tied to identity and belonging. This new law replaced the old system that had allowed governments to hand land over to foreign companies. That pipeline of exploitation? Shut down. Overnight. The world reacted with shock. Markets called it reckless. Analysts called it dangerous. But to the people of Burkina Faso, it was liberation. Western embassies murmured about sanctions. Threats of suspensions floated in the air. But Captain Ibrahim Traoré didn't flinch. He didn't backtrack. He called it what it truly was: healing. A return to ancestral sovereignty. An end to centuries of dispossession disguised as investment. Why does this matter? Because for decades, foreign powers treated African soil like real estate. They built luxury resorts where elders once prayed. They drilled for oil beside schools. They planted crops for European supermarkets while local families went hungry. And then, with a single stroke of a pen, Burkina Faso said, never again. But this wasn't only about foreign control. It was also about fixing deep inequalities at home. For too long, powerful families and wealthy elites hoarded thousands of hectares, while poor farmers fought for a patch of earth no bigger than a blanket. Traoré's law leveled the playing field. Land was no longer about who could afford it, but about who truly needed it to live. What message does that send? To presidents across Africa? To farmers in Kenya? To herders in Niger? To the youth of South Africa? The world is watching, and it's uncomfortable. Because if land is no longer for sale, what happens to the global system that runs on profit and billion-dollar deals? And the bigger question, will the world allow Traoré's vision to survive? Make no mistake, this is more than a law. It is a line drawn in the soil. And for the first time in decades, that soil belongs to the people who walk it, farm it, and bleed for it. So who receives this land now that it has been reclaimed? The answer is simple and revolutionary: the people who need it most. Not corporations. Not absentee landlords. But the forgotten majority. Under Traoré's direction, land is being redistributed to the very farmers who have worked it for generations, often renting it from owners who never even stepped foot on it. Now, those farmers are being given secure access. Not as charity. Not, it's empowerment. And when you look at the numbers, the need for change is staggering. For years, Burkina Faso was losing as much as 10 tons of gold a day to smuggling in under-the-table deals. Corporations paid millions in bribes to slash tax rates from 30% down to just 3%. While foreigners grew rich, local farmers were left with dust and debt. That era is over. The government is no longer a middleman for outsiders, it has become a guardian for its people. And this transformation isn't just happening in agriculture. Women and youth, the very groups once sidelined from ownership, are now at the center of this new vision. For generations, women carried the backbone of Burkina Faso's agriculture, planting, harvesting, selling in the markets. They did more than 60% of the work, yet most never legally owned a single hectare. The land was always in someone else's name, a husband, a landlord, a distant authority. But under Traore's leadership, land is now being allocated directly to women's cooperatives. These are not symbolic gestures. They are strategic collectives focused on farming, livestock, food processing, and even exports. And history proves something powerful. When women control land, food security rises, education improves, and community income grows. Now, the state is no longer asking women to survive. It is giving them the foundation to thrive. Young people are now being given state-leased land, not as a last resort, but as a launchpad. Through national programs, they're learning modern farming methods, precision irrigation, climate-smart seeds, vertical farming, solar-powered drying, and digital agro-data systems. This isn't about running back to tradition. It's about evolution, transforming villages into hubs of innovation. It's about proving you don't need to abandon your home to succeed. You can build your future right where you are. And the effects are already visible. Youth who once dreamed of fleeing to overcrowded cities are returning to their provinces with skills and ambition. Women who once begged for land now manage cooperatives, send their children to school, and control their own income. And perhaps most revolutionary of all, these changes are permanent. They're not pilot projects. They're not experiments. They're written into law. The pen is no longer in the hands of foreign consultants. This time, it belongs to the people themselves. When Burkina Faso announced its land reform, the reaction was instant. Overnight, Western media headlines exploded. They called Captain Ibrahim Traoré's policies reckless, radical, even unconstitutional. Editorials warned of economic disaster. Think tanks urged diplomatic pressure. Investors froze deals. Aid packages were quietly suspended. Embassies sent signals of distance. But Traoré didn't blink. He understood the truth. This wasn't fear of mismanagement. It was fear of precedent. Because if Burkina Faso could nationalize land and survival of Africa, the echoes of South Africa's struggle were clear. Just 1 year earlier, in 2024, President Cyril Ramaphosa reignited a push to expropriate land without compensation, undoing the legacy of apartheid inequality. The backlash came fast. Western leaders called it theft. Aid was threatened. Investments were delayed. South Africa debated, revised, hesitated. Traoré watched. And then he did something different. He didn't debate. He didn't call for hearings. He didn't water down his message. He signed one law. No apologies. No delay. Where South Africa wrestled with process, Burkina Faso moved with purpose. And courage comes with a price. Burkina Faso now faces the same backlash South Africa did, only faster, and with fewer resources. Sanctions are whispered. Travel advisories grow. Aid is suspended. But through it all, Traoré stays calm. He doesn't shout. He doesn't beg. He acts. He signs decrees.